And welcome back to Marine Corps Movie Minute, where we break down movies in the Marine Corps 1 minute at a time. Today we're breaking down minute number 56 of Clint Eastwood's Heartbreak Ridge. I'm
57.
Jack. What?
57.
Fucking dickhead, it says 56.
I tell you, I tell you this every
It was
time.
up on the screen. Okay, everybody, listen. Ignore me. It's 57.
It's
You're
Friday.
here.
Right
If you haven't heard this little spiel before, then you haven't been paying attention.
All right, who are you again?
I don't know. I'm Jack.
And I'm Brian, and we have with us today.
Yeah, and I'm Robert Estrada from the History of the Marine Corps podcast.
Professional as always.
We got to give somebody on here to give us some credibility, you know. So
Yeah, I know, right? We're gonna run on his coattails.
You picked the wrong guy.
Yeah, you're faking it good then, you know.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Well, Robert, thanks for coming back and rounding out the week with us on this Friday and finishing up the week with us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Yeah, man. It's been good having your last couple of days.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
Yeah.
What do you guys got for this minute?
Well, so I was kind of under the impression, just from memory alone, that this was the more action-packed of the scenes, but it's basically more of the patent speech.
Yeah,
The motto, we're gonna go. Now, Stitch has got some pretty good lines. He's got one line that I thought was kind of funny, about the aggressive Marines.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This minute is there's really not much in these.
Nah, it's a setup minute.
Yeah, our biggest bit of action was Combat Town and Gunny shooting at his own troops.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's been mostly dialogue. I mean, there's been some funny bits. This is set, like you said, it's set up for a coming conflict, if you will,
Yeah.
and kind of giving a little I don't know.
Context.
Yeah. So context of what's going to happen and a little bit of we don't really get to know Lieutenant Ring too much about this, but so there's really not foreshadowing, I would say, with his character, but we do learn that he's not going to partake.
Yeah.
We do get. I mean, it's like you said, it's a little bit of setup because if you notice, so the whole time that Lieutenant's talking, I see Profile's got his eye on Gunny when the minute first starts, and then even as they go, he keeps shooting sideways looks at Gunny. He's really paying attention to what he's got going on.
Yeah.
When Lieutenant Ring talks about, basically setting up an ambush for the superior first platoon and, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Lance Corporal Forgetti's a little, you could tell he's annoyed. He kind of rolls his eyes. And of course, then we get to, how they're going to do this is, what did he say? He goes through like, we're going to do crossfire and cover and concealment.
Yeah, interlocking fields of fire. And
thank you. Yeah, interlocking fields of fire. I knew my crossfire doesn't sound right at all. Just listen to the minute. But and the natural aggressiveness of the U.S. Marines, which Stitch said, if show me some poontang and I'll show you an aggressive Marine. Which is a great line.
Yeah.
And I think Gunny hears him too.
True.
Yeah. I think Gunny hears him. He kind of looks back at him when he says it. I don't think Gunny would argue with that.
No, it's not some of the stories that he's told.
Well, I had a little kind of note that's said is it really natural aggressiveness of a Marine or is it a trained aggressiveness? And is it a little bit of nature or nurture with these guys? Now obviously I'm not talking about the poontang thing. That's probably just natural. That's nature. I'm talking more about the ability to fight and be effective. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Thoughts?
Marines, I think, honestly, man, minus a few exceptions, I think out of anybody that I've known quite a few people that have been in other service. I'm sure you guys have too. Marines are a little bit different. Their reasons are a little bit different than what most other people get into it for, and I think I think the Marines attracts a certain type of individual. So I think that there's probably a little bit of truth in that specific statement. Um, I would say
Yeah.
it's a blanket statement, like it's a fact. It's solid science. It's just I think the type of person that decides the Marine Corps is where they're going to go is it's a different individual.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I think it leans more towards the nature side of the house. So you
Yeah,
have, yeah, the attitudes are different between every Marine, but the mentality is kind of the same, right? So
yeah,
I kind of lean in that way as well.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. Actually, I was going to say I think it's a little bit of like you said, a certain type of individual, and as Perry says, like it's not across the board. Everybody's different, but in general, a certain type of individual goes to the Marine Corps, and then the Marine Corps hones or trains or points or polishes that.
yeah,
So it's I just was curious of you guys' thoughts on that. So
yeah.
I think we all tend to agree. Uh,
Case closed. Yep.
right?
Yeah.
It's settled, and it's if anybody ever needs the proof, they can go and cite this podcast as
Yep.
definitive.
Yeah. Don't ask me what minute it's going to be, but it'll be this podcast.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like when you're citing your references on a like a paper
Yeah,
you're
the
handing in.
bibliography or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
right. You, you gotta Perry's got to put a range of pages. He can't just put the specific.
It's going to be within 3.
It's
It's
gonna
going
be
to
from
be
minute 1 to 113. It's somewhere in the pod. Listen to every
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah, put a question mark behind that number. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I promise you it's there.
I think it's funny too that it seems like Major Powers is intentionally favoring one platoon over another and kind of like pitting them against each other, or really he just has no regard for recon, so he just uses them as training dummies, really.
Yeah.
Perry and I, when we were together in the Marine Corps, and we were both 2651s, we were outnumbered by O2. What are they? 31s?
Yeah, O2, yeah, O2 31s and I think O2 50. There was a bunch of O2s. Intel analysts.
Yeah.
Basically, and all the brass that we reported to, they were all O2s, and you could see the favoritism at times, and the basically we were the recon, but we were the dummies.
Yeah.
Of the
The
of the
redheaded stepchildren.
yeah, go like they'd move our shop every couple weeks and be like, set up a new one because we got some plan. Like, oh, like Perry made this huge, awesome mural in this one back room, and we really it was like a storage room, and we put desk, like offices for the staff sergeant and the captain and all that. That was for us, and NCOs had their little desks and stuff. It worked. And then they were like, yeah, no, that's ours now. Get out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's Major Powers acting that way is a little is I mean, obviously we weren't a combat unit, so
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
it's not one for one, but when I was watching that, I'm like, well, you know what? Yeah, there's definitely some favoritism going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, we usually don't see that with recon units, right? They're usually on their own, like doing their own thing. No one messes with them. They're just like the quiet guys in the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cowboys.
The scary ones, yeah.
Yeah. Well, in this movie, they're the bad news bears. They're
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're the plucky, screw ups that that all it takes is one guy that believes in them to
Yeah, that's it.
have them win the day, and they're gonna show up that the uppity first platoon, It has some of the sports movie tropes in it, even though it's a military movie. Yes, there's in no real life would recon be a training tool for another platoon.
No.
No way.
The only time they would be a training tool would be something a little bit more elite than a recon unit. Did you guys ever see Generation Kill on HBO?
No.
I've only seen bits of it. I've never sat down and watched it.
it's incredible, and it is almost word for word what was in the book, and the book was written by a embedded a Rolling Stone reporter when they invaded Iraq the second time. Anyway, it's about a recon unit that did all this stuff, and it is as close to it's as close to actually being there as I've ever seen portrayed by Hollywood. But they actually go into about how elite and how specially trained the recon Marines are, and that all the stuff that you have to do to be able to get put in that unit, and like how cocky and how like good they are at their jobs. So it's funny that yeah, you say that these guys are supposed to be, they've been drown proofed and jump qualled and all that good stuff, and they're using them as target dummies.
It's a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But still, it's just funny. It's just laughable. It's one of those things about this movie that when you watch, you just like, yeah, but no.
Yeah, like the rank insignia on the cover.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we've noticed a few different uniform gaffes or funny stuff, and one in a few spots nobody they didn't have even on their lapels. They didn't have any insignia, and other times like one Marine has sleeves rolled down, and other has them rolled up. It's inconsistent, you know.
yeah.
Actually, Robert, I got a question for you. Is to get an outside opinion.
Yeah.
Is Lieutenant Ring a butter bars or is he a first lieutenant?
I was just about to ask you the same thing. So it kind of depends on the way the light catches the rank, right? So
Yes.
it looked like he was a first lieutenant, or he is a first lieutenant. But sometimes when he turns, you get that gold shimmer in
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going with first lieutenant, but I don't know for sure. That's just a guess.
I am with you. I think he's a first lieutenant. It does not specify in like on IMDb or anywhere I look. It's always Lieutenant Ring.
Yeah.
In this scene alone, I was convinced. I'm like, yes, I think I finally figured it out for sure that he's a first lieutenant. And then he looked down and I saw gold, and I was
Yep.
like, damn it, because it keeps happening. Every scene that we see him in, it's never clear enough to really be able to tell. And he does act like he's boot as all get out, but
He does.
Yeah.
I really think he's supposed to be a first lieutenant. And so I'm going with, that's silver, not gold. And it's just the light hits it. Because in most of this scene, when the sun's not hitting it directly, it does look silver. Man, every once in a while, I'm like, nope, that's gold. That's gold. And I'm thinking maybe it's just reflecting the Quonset huts in the background. So
Is this his first duty station? Do they ever bring that up?
I think it is because when he had his conversation with Gunny, he only talks about there's two hints of that. He talks about college and that he was the platoon commander of his ROTC in his
ROTC.
college. Yeah. And and Gunny said he'd sleep better at night. And thank you. Like he was
Thank you.
And then when Sergeant Major Chuzu introduces him to Gunny, he said, "Oh, you didn't think you were going to be tilting nipple to a bunch of no-rank fuzzballs." He's like, "No, he's going to have to do the same thing for his lieutenant too." So it makes me think, anyways, that this is his first real duty station
Yeah.
because he's very eager to learn, but he's also very timid.
Yep.
He's intimidated by Gunny and impressed by him. He's definitely intimidated by Major Powers.
Yeah.
Even with their conversation that they have when he's like, are you hinting at the fact that we're supposed to lose? And he's like, well, yeah, I see what you mean, but yeah, there's nothing I could do. That's what Major Powers wants. He's, well, did you have a conversation with him? And he's like, move the men out. Like he just ends the conversation. And you
Yeah.
can tell he seems ashamed that he even has to say this to Gunny.
Yeah.
Yeah, the answer is no. He, in a million years, would never have that conversation with Major Powers at this point. They're there just to do what he says, and Lieutenant Ring's too busy doing papers for the war seminar that he was going to, and he had pre-scuba school. He's doing all these other qualifications and not really involved with the training. And I think that's another reason why Gunny was like, "I'll just freelance him," and he's like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." But yeah, I even put in my notes like Lieutenant Ring is not going to rock the boat. He is not going to have this conversation with the major about recon not being effectively training for themselves because if they have to go to real combat, they just end up dead, as Gunny put it.
Yeah, they just get dead.
Yeah, they just yeah, I loved it. I love his lines, even just his way of speaking,
Yeah. That's one thing about this movie. The dialogue is fantastic, especially between him and the sergeant major. It's just hilarious.
Oh yeah. Oh, and we joke too that like Lance Corporal Forgetti when he was shooting his weapon and Gunny questioned him on that on the rifle range and he's like, "Oh, the fucking weapon's fucked up. It's fuck it." And he says it 4 times in a row and I'm like, that is the most accurate line of dialogue that I've ever read.
Any movie ever, ever, ever.
It's an art form, so.
Yeah.
Well, we already talked in previous minutes about how like we've never used the miles gear. So I had a little bit of notes about the miles gear, just other that like basically the ones they're using was developed in the 80s and it stands for Multiple Integrated Laser Engagement System, which Lieutenant Ring demonstrates with the little laser pointer. It's been laser tag as we talked about.
Yeah.
Miles is going. I just was going to mention this because it was interesting to me, but the Miles is actually going away, and they're calling it, I guess, Dice or DISE. I hope it's Dice and not Dies because you don't want.
Yeah. When you pull the trigger, it just goes bang.
Man.
Right.
Bang.
Right.
Pew pew. Pew pew pew.
Yeah, so the new gear now has GPS when you go bang bang,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the main difference. It's laser tag, but with GPS.
So in your research, is the Marine Corps going to get any of this gear, or is it going to the Army and Marine Corps will get the scraps?
Yeah,
we're gonna get the old units that may or may not work.
Yeah, that's exactly. You just I didn't even have to look that up. That's exactly what's going to happen. One of the things it did say is that this new equipment is actually in the past was the Miles gear was developed for the U.S. military. This new stuff was actually designed for forces within UCOM and not the United States. So it's the U.S. Army is well, it said at the time the U.S. Army didn't have and didn't want access to it, but what it was basically saying is no, this is coming. But um, yeah, and this was an older article too, so I don't know how integrated it was, but it was first talked about back in 2006, and that's when the Army was like, nope, we don't want it. But now that's changed, because it's been developed over the years, and now this is the new thing. But yeah, that goes without say. Army gets it first, Marines hopefully will get it in a few years when
And
it's
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They did a good job showing that in that clip because the Miles gear looked beat up as hell. So yeah, so it was probably new for the Marine Corps.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and then that's what I always liked about like in boot camp is, you're getting the gear that's been around for even longer, like you're using the
Yeah,
stuff,
Vietnam.
Like none of this stuff is the new stuff, and that you're gonna get when you get to the fleet.
Yeah, giving you muskets. Yeah.
This is how you load it. You take this stick. Don't lose this stick. You're gonna need this.
Yeah, your gas mask was just that old that bird looking thing from the old Pandemics was all.
And your NBC instructors actually wearing like the old leather. Was it called a Cossack or whatever? Yeah, he goes in his little apothecary bag, some chicken bones. I'm gonna gas you boys.
Yeah, those guys took pride in that.
Yeah. Ours, man, our NBC guy was different. He loved his job, man.
Well, no, that's a different breed right there. Like those guys, it's not something I would want to do. That's for sure.
No.
But I was telling my kids about the gas chamber and how if you have sinuses, you won't have any stuffy nose after doing that.
So much snot.
Yeah.
So you in boot camp you get the little video. You can I don't know, you probably have to buy it. You get the little video of your platoon doing various trainings, and if you're lucky, you see yourself every once in a while. But one
Yeah.
of the main things that they film is the gas chamber.
Oh man.
And so my mom always jokes that she could tell it was me because of my cough. And of course me and my dad are always laughing. We're like, that's not even my platoon. She's like, oh, I know my baby's cough. And I'm like, that's not even the right platoon. Like, no, don't argue with me. I know it when I see it. I'm like, okay, let's go with it,
Can't argue with mom.
right? Oh, sorry, this is totally off subject, but my mom, she's always like telling me like, oh, they're older and they go to church, and these even older people come up to them and be like, oh, is your son still in the Marines? I've been in the Marines for like 25 years. Yeah, it's been 20 years, but when she came to visit me one time, she was still wearing the original sweater that she got when I was in boot camp. It said Marine Mom. And I'm like, if you're wearing that, no wonder people think I'm still in. Like,
Yeah.
like you're advertising it, and
Yeah,
they don't
maybe
know because
maybe she sent you a message. Yeah, she wanted you to stay in.
no kidding. Well, even then, I'd be out by now.
Yeah, I know.
Or should be. Jesus.
Well, close enough, Trust me, they'd have me out by now.
Yeah. My mom was the same way till Aston went in. Now she's wearing Air Force shit all the time, and I don't know to be proud or pissed off.
Yeah, that's kind of a betrayal, right?
Yeah, I know, right? Like, what the fuck, ma?
That's like a 180 there.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know. It's like, damn.
You got to give it to her, It's
Yeah. Well, no, well, yeah, well, if Aston's listening, hey, buddy, fuck the Air Force.
You were smarter than us.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, but we had a lot more fun.
Yeah, I went TAD to an Air Force base for some training, and I remember going to the chow hall, and they were like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm putting my stuff away," and they were like, "No, we got people for that."
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. They're living in dorms.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's
What is
crazy.
this?
And nobody was tech sergeant, whatever. It was all like, "Hey, Steve, we're gonna go to that barbecue place tonight." Well, I'm in. Yeah, it's a different world.
Barely the military.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. There's actually two military branches. There's the Army and the Marine. I'm sorry, it's the Army and the Navy, and the Marines are a cult, and the Air Force is a desk job. It's
Yes,
just
the
a desk job. It's like a club.
Yeah.
I like Gunny's line when the lieutenant said he's got a doctor's appointment at 1100, and he said, "Well, I hope it's nothing that'll keep you out of the next war." That was it. I mean, that's actually how the minute ends anyway. So, good place to end this minute, unless you guys have anything else. Or Robert, if since this is your last day with us, if there's anything overall about this movie or the Marine Corps or Clint Eastwood, anything you kind of thoughts, feel free to share with it now. And of course, any plugs you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think this is up there in one of my favorite Marine Corps movies, right? And it's not because it's accurate, but it just but the dialogue, like I mentioned before, the dialogue that Gunny has with pretty much everyone, just hilarious, right? That you would hear a lot of what he's saying in the Marine Corps, and especially a lot of these a lot of the slang words and the jargon that he uses. It's just hilarious, right? Kind of brings me back. So um with the exception, yeah, Full Metal Jacket's up there as well. More of the boot camp scene, not necessarily the Vietnam part of it, but yeah,
Yeah.
this is up there as one of my favorite movies. It's pretty good. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh man, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on for sure. And as I said, I've been listening to your podcast, and I think it's amazing. It's hitting two of my sweet spots of the Marine Corps, but also history in general. You kind of boil it down really well for me. They're easy listens basically. I know some people get intimidated by like, oh, history. They're great, easy listens. I highly recommend it to anybody who's listening to this and likes either history, podcasts, or the Marine Corps. 'Cause and I don't even mean to pigeonhole it into that because it's well done, and I'm looking forward to listening to more. And on that note, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you? Find your podcast.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. So I appreciate that. So we are the podcast could be found anywhere that you listen to podcasts. We're on social media on Facebook and Twitter at Marine History and on Instagram at History of Marines. So we'll post things. We'll try to post things a few times a week, sometimes daily. Just certain things about unique facts about the Marine Corps, things you learn in boot camp. Kind of explains the why, as opposed to just the what or the who. We also have a website called historyofthemarinecorps.com. You take a look at that for references used for each episode and a visual map of how the Marine Corps connects with certain traditions and people and places and specific events.
Awesome. And again, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Always good to have a fellow Marine as a guest and talk about. I mean, like you said, like I've said in the past, this is one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite movies in general, but it's definitely one of my favorite military movies.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks again for having me.
Oh, anytime, man.
Okay, so Perry, you got anything before we go?
No, brother, I think I'm pretty good.
All right. Well, I'll just do Friday tradition. I'll just ask everybody to check out moviesbyminutes.com. And I think there's 157 different movies by minutes at this point. So there's plenty to check out that are done way more professionally than this one. But uh, once again, pay special attention to Star Wars Minute because they started that whole genre. And of course, we can be found at the Marine Corps Movie Minute on our Podbean site, and then of course we have our Facebook page, the Marine Corps Movie Minute Quarter Deck, and you just can search for Marine Corps Movie Minute on Facebook and you find it. We're searchable in Google, all that good stuff. That's the easiest way to find us. Other than that, thank Perry again for joining me as always. I thank Robert for
Anytime.
joining us this week. I got a doctor's appointment at 1100, so I better get going.
Well, hopefully it won't be anything to keep you out of the next war.
Well, thank you.
It's his prostate exam.
That's a whole different war there.
It's a whole different type of PTSD.
Yeah, I made that well in advance.